Assalamu alaikum everyone. Walaikum assalam. Walaikum assalam. How are you guys? मैं ठीक alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking. Can you please tell which paper should I practice for AdMaths P1? Do the February-March paper. By the way, I hope you guys have seen the February-March paper I posted on my Instagram. I'll most likely do a live solution of it very soon, inshallah, probably after Eid. And practice that paper. It's very important. It's the first paper that we have as per the new paper format. And then do the specimen paper and then work your way backwards. And as you're working your way backwards, remember to limit the use of calculator. Try and solve questions. I mean, in questions where you really don't need a calculator, just don't use it. So I just wanted to clarify if trace paper will be allowed in the exam. But I posted a video on tracing paper. Did I post a video? Is it out yet? I'm not sure. I made one, but that will answer all your questions most likely. Tracing paper. Tero. Let me see if I posted a video or not. I think I have, but if I haven't, you will find it very soon. Okay, most likely tomorrow. Okay, anyway. So let's start. Let's continue with differentiation. So we're doing first part of differentiation, and we have done equation of tangent, equation of normal, small change, rates of change. So most of students said उनको allow नहीं किया. बेटा देखो tracing paper के बारे में हमेशा से एक dispute रहा है, which is why I always tell my students that the method, whatever it is that you're learning to do with the help of a tracing paper, make sure that you have a plan B as well. Okay, so if you're learning how to do rotation with the help of tracing paper, make sure that you have a plan B as well. Because you're right, a lot of students did come up with this complaint that the tracing paper was not allowed. So that's why you got to have a plan B. Okay, so anyway, this is basically what we are going to do today. We're going to do practical maximum and minimum problems. So in questions like these, you will notice that you're given a shape. They are very standard questions, and of that shape, you may be given certain piece of information. You may be asked to maybe show that the height is equal to so and so. You may be asked to show that the radius is equal to so and so, with obviously some given piece of information. Like you may be given the area and you may be asked to show the height is equal to so and so. You may be given the volume, you may be asked to show that the radius is equal to so and so. Okay, and then the question will ask you to maybe find out the stationary value of volume, of area, depends on the question. Okay, so they are very, very standard questions, and every standard question you will notice, मैं आपको बताया था कि इस क्वेश्चन का ट्रेंड किस तरह से होगा. Okay, if you solve enough questions, you will also reach a point where you can solve the first part and kind of anticipate what the following part is going to ask. Okay, so the question, you will basically be given some information, some usually ये mensuration से, usually they're related to volume and surface area. Some information about a shape, like for example could be volume or area or even perimeter. So this is what you will notice in the question. And then in the first part, they will ask you to express any variable. Okay, like for example, could be the radius, could be the height, could be anything, could be the length, anything of that sort. Okay, and then in the following part, they will ask you to find out the stationary value. Okay, and then maybe in the same part they will ask you to find out the nature, and then maybe in the following part they will ask you to find out the nature of the stationary value. So this is what a standard question on practical applications of maximum and minimum problems will look like. Okay, सो अब ये बैठ के आपने याद नहीं करना, ये नहीं कि इससे कोई हट के आ गया तो आप कहें कि सर आपने तो ये बताया था, ये क्या, ये तो कुछ हट के आ गया. दिस इज़ pretty much 90% of the questions. Okay, so this is what a standard question on practical applications of max slash minimum value will look like. Okay, now, so I've written over here, this is an area of differentiation which allows you to find the maximum or minimum value of a variable, for example, maximum area or volume of a shape that can be achieved under given dimensions. Okay, so let's say you are restricted and the restriction is that you may have a certain perimeter or you may have a certain length of a wire. Now you're trying to find out that what's the maximum area that you can achieve with the length of that wire, or maybe the minimum area that you can achieve with the length of that wire. Okay, so we're just going to straight away dive into past paper questions, and you will, if you have, if you know the basics of differentiation, then this is not going to be a problem. Okay, so let's start with some easy questions and then we'll gradually increase the difficulty level. So past paper questions. Achha, by the way, I forgot to announce that those of you who are watching, if you can please like the stream if you haven't done that yet, and if you could also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, that would be great. Can we watch O-level videos just to learn the basics if you were in A-levels? What are you going to learn? A-levels में होते हुए ऐसी कौन सी O-level की चीज़ है जो आपको help करेगी? Maybe if you've taken S1 to statistics, yeah, you can do that. There's no harm. But I'm just curious, what are you going to learn? So how many advanced and math papers should we solve, should we do a day from now onwards? Depends on how many subjects you're appearing for. If you're just appearing for, let's say, 3-4 subjects, then you should do 2 papers, as in 1 paper 1, 1 paper 2. If not, then you should do at least paper 1 per day of both the subjects. But I'm assuming you have other subjects as well that require time. Anyway, so here's a question which we're going to solve. Now, remember the prerequisite of, although with past papers now you are given, तो अभी जो recent paper आया है February March का, उसको ज़रा खोल के देखते हैं. उसमें आपने देखा होगा कि you are given a formula sheet. Yeah. So you're given a formula sheet, but I would still advise that you memorize. See, although you're given a formula sheet, but you're not given the formula for cube, you're not given the formula for cuboid, you're not given the total surface area formula for a cylinder, you're not given the total surface area formula for a cone. So yes, formulas are given, but I would still advise that you memorize the formulas. Okay, formulas given here, but I would still advise that you memorize the formulas. Okay, so the shape that we're talking about over here is a cuboid. So let's underline that. Has a total surface area of 120 centimeter square. Its base measures x by 2x and its height by h centimeter. Obtain an expression for h in terms of x. So like I said, pretty much a standard question. You have to find out the height in terms of x. So what's the piece of information that we can use? We're given the length, we're given the width, and we're given the height, and we are given the total surface area. Now what's the formula for calculating total surface area? That's twice of length times width, and we're talking about a cuboid, so we're going to assume that it's a closed cuboid. It's not an open cuboid, it's a closed cuboid, a solid cuboid. Plus twice times length into width plus length into breadth plus twice times length into height plus 2 times width into height. Yeah, and that's equal to the total surface area, which according to this question is equal to 120. Okay. So 2 times length into width, that means x times 2x, plus 2 times length into height, that means x times h, plus 2 times width into height, that means 2x times h, and that's equal to what? That's equal to 120. Now keep your eyes on the prize, and what's that? The prize is that you're supposed to make h the subject. Sometimes you're lucky कि वो आपको पहले से बता देगा कि show that h is equals to so and so. But here, not so lucky, but still you're lucky in this following part, because you're supposed to show what the volume is equal to, and then this is through this you'll be able to check whether your answer to part 1 is correct or not. So anyway, let's work this out. So we get 4x square plus 2xh plus 4xh, which is equal to 120. Sir, should O-levels and IGCSE students celebrate Eid? At your own risk. Plus 6xh is equals to 120. So 6xh is equals to 120 minus 4x square. H is equals to 120 minus 4x squared divided by 6x. Now we can leave it over here. The question hasn't really mentioned as to how we should show our answer, so you can leave it over here, and these are 2 easy marks. Now if you think about it, here's something interesting. Here's some food for thought. If you think about it, you can do part 1, part 2 without knowing a single thing about differentiation. So if I give this to a non-AdMath student, given that they have good algebraic manipulation skills and they know mensuration, they know their formulas, then they will also be able to do it. So part 1 and part 2 don't require any concept of AdMaths. Now part 2. Part 2 says show that the volume is equals to 40x minus 4x cubed upon 3. Now what's the volume equal to? Volume is equals to length into width into height. So let's work this out. What's the length? That's x. What's the width? That's 2x. Multiplied by the height. So what's the height equal to? Height is equal to 120 minus 4x square upon 6x. Now you are supposed to show it that it's equal to what the question says. So let's simplify. X and x cancel. 2 1s are 2, 2 3s are 6. So we have 120 times x minus 4x cube upon 3. And now we can separate the 3 and write it separately with 120x and write it separately with 4x cube. And now what do we get? We get 40x plus, sorry, not plus, minus 4 upon 3 x cube. There we go. Okay, I'll take your questions now. Hi, realistically, how hard is it to get an A star in AdMaths? A star is difficult. For A star, your solution needs to be perfect. But A is very much possible. Okay, A star अक्सर कम लोगों का आता है. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's just that they don't pay the due attention that's required in order to get an A star. It's not like they're incapable of getting an A star. If someone can get an A, I think with some hard work they can get an A star as well. But it requires a lot of attention to detail. Achha, what's that? Sir, can we use translation vectors to figure out unknown points, intersection of the diameter when midpoint is given? Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. You're not using anything illegal, so you can do that. Anything that you learn in math can be used in AdMaths also. Okay, but not everything that you learn in math can be used in maths. Not everything that you learn in AdMath can be used in maths. So what are your remarks on the February-March paper? Surprisingly easy. The February-March paper, or should I say that suspiciously easy. Can we get extra sheet in AdMaths? Yes, you can, but you don't really need it. Why? Because you're given an extra page towards the end of the question paper, so you can use that. Okay, but if you're using it, then just make sure that you mention it clearly. Okay, show that V has a stationary value when H is equals to 4x upon 3. Okay, so what are we supposed to do over here? We have the expression for volume. Here it is. We're supposed to show that it has a stationary value when x is equals to 4 upon 3. Now, there are 2 ways that we can solve this question. One is that we can differentiate, equate it to 0, solve for the value of h. Okay, we can do that. Why is it not? Just a minute. Yeah. So we can differentiate it, solve for the value of x, and then plug in that value of x into h. ठीक है, एक तो ये तरीका है हमारे पास. अच्छा, एक और क्या तरीका है? So at times, let me solve this question and then I'll take your question. So another thing that we can do is, which I'm about to, is as follows. Find out dv upon dx. Okay, so dv upon dx will be equal to what? dv upon dx will be equal to 40 minus 3 into 4 is 12. 12 upon 3 is 4x squared. Okay, now, according to the question, v has a stationary value when h is equals to 4x upon 3. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to make x the subject. Okay, so from this, I'm going to make x the subject, and if I plug in that value of x into the equation, the answer should turn out to be 0. Okay, so let's do that. 3h is equals to 4x, and x is equals to what? X is equals to, yeah, बल्कि एक काम करते हैं, I have a better idea. Wait a minute. Let's find out the value of x. Let's find out the value of x. So 40 minus 4x square equals to 0. That means 40 is equals to 4x square, which means x square is equals to 40 upon 4, which is equal to 10. That means x is equals to plus minus 10. So this is the value of x when v is stationary, but that doesn't answer the question. This is the value of x when v is stationary, but that doesn't answer the question. Okay, so what do? Here's what we do. So remember, h was equal to what? H was equal to 120 minus 4x square upon 6x. This is what x was equal to. Now, if I plug in the value of h here, I should technically end up with the same value of x. Let's see if that's the case. So 4x upon 3 is equal to 120 minus 4x square upon 6x. Now, when I solve this, I should end up with the same value of x as the one here. Okay, if I don't, that means there's something wrong. So 3 1s are 3, 3 2s are 6, x as it is. 3 1s are 3, 3 2s are 6. Now let's cross multiply. So we have 4x times 2x, so that's 8x square is equals to 120 minus 4x square. This becomes 12x square equals to 120. So x square is equals to what? X square is equals to 10, and x is equals to plus minus root 10. We get the exact same answer. Okay, so this was a show question, so we had to show that v has a stationary value when x is equals to 4 upon 3. So how did I solve this? I'll give you guys a summary. So first, we find dy by dx, we equate it to 0, we find out the value of x, and then we find out the value of x by using this value of h. Okay, so जब हम stationary करके देख रहे हैं, तब भी हमारे पास x की वही value आ रही है जो question में दी हुई है. So this was a show question. You're not supposed to like give the answer or anything, but you're supposed to show that the value of x that you're getting is the same in both cases. So will you make a separate video for functions IGCSE? Should I what your? I've already made a video covering functions in detail. I have already made a video covering functions in detail of O levels and IGCSE. Make sure to check it out. Anyway, this was one question, a fairly easy one. Let's do another one. Here it is. Sir, can you please make a video for circular? So close to exams, inshallah, I'll be streaming all the other topics such as circular measure, polynomials, modulus, graphs of ln and e. But I'll do those topics close to exams, inshallah. Anyway, here's another question. Let's see what this says. A container is a circular cylinder open at one end. Okay, so it's open at one end. With base radius of r centimeter and height of h centimeter. No, not from last year. I made a video for functions IGCSE recently. I did a live stream recently covering all the concepts and all the concepts that have been added as well. The volume of the container is 1000 centimeter cube. Given that r and h can vary and the total outer surface area of the container has a minimum value, find this value. All right. So this is one of those questions where it's not divided into parts. It's just straight up everything squeezed into one question. Okay, so it's easier when it's divided into parts, but it's because you can check as you go along. Normally you're given what you're supposed to bring it equal to, so it's easy. You can make sure that you've done it correctly, but this is not one of those questions, unfortunately. But anyway, let's solve. It's the same for O levels and IGCSE. Okay, O levels and IGCSE, majority of the topics, syllabus for majority of the topics is the same, and functions is one of those topics. Anyway, so we are given the volume of a cylinder, and what's that equal to? The volume of a cylinder is equals to 1000 centimeter cube. And what's the formula? The formula is pi r square h, which is equal to 1000. Now, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to find out we're supposed to, given that R and H can vary and that the total surface area of the container has a minimum value. So that means A has a minimum value. Okay. Now, how do I find out the minimum value? Let's see what the area is equal to. So the total surface area of a cylinder is equal to 2 pi r square plus 2 pi r h. But this is for a solid cylinder. Okay. The cylinder that we are dealing with is not a solid, it's an open top cylinder. So if it's a cylinder that's open from the top, its total surface area will be pi r square plus 2 pi r h. Okay. Now, pi r square means pi r square, there's nothing that can be done, plus 2 pi r h is basically the equation for area. So I've just rewritten it for good measure. Now, before I can differentiate and equate it to 0, notice that this is in terms of r as well as h. Okay, this equation is in terms of r as well as h. I want to bring it down to just one variable. Okay, I should be able to bring it down to just one variable. So how about I make h the subject from here using the volume. So h will be equal to 1000 upon pi r square, and I plug that in over here. So A is equals to pi r square plus 2 pi r into 1000 upon pi r square. Now let's simplify. Pi and pi cancel, r cancels, and the square from r square cancels. So A is equals to pi r square plus 1000, 2000 actually, plus 2000 upon r. Okay, now I can't differentiate it like this. So instead, I would prefer to write it in a way so that it's easy for me to differentiate. And that's going to be pi r square plus 2000, r is to the power minus 1. Okay, now I'm going to differentiate it. So dA upon dr is equals to 2 pi r minus 2000, r is to the power minus 2. Okay, and we're going to equate this to 0. 2 pi r minus 2000 upon r square is equal to 0. Let's solve this for the value of r. 2 pi r is equals to 2000 upon r square. Okay, now let's cross multiply and see what's the value of r. Remember, we want the value of r before we can find out the minimum value of a. So if you cross multiply, this is what you get. You get 2 pi r cube, which is equal to 2000. That means you can simplify. 2 ones are, 2 1000s are. R cube is equals to 1000 upon pi. Okay, and r is now equal to cube root of 1000 upon pi. Okay, Abhi, it's not the end. Remember, you're supposed to find out the minimum value. Okay, you're supposed to find out the minimum value of a. Okay, so you're supposed to find the minimum value of a. So now you know the value of r at which it's minimum. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this value of r and you're going to plug it in here. Achha, how are you going to do it? That's the question. Yes, this is live. Okay, this is live. So the way that you're going to do it is smartly. Okay, and here's what I suggest. So first, use your calculator and work out this value. Okay, so that means taking the cube root of 1000 upon pi. Okay, then this value is now in your answer. Okay, now you take this value and you plug it in place of r. So that means this is what you need to do. Pi into answer squared plus 2000 upon the answer. So this way, you will be prevented from premature approximation. Okay, so premature approximation is when you round off sooner than you're supposed to, and there's a big difference between your answer and the correct answer. Okay, so pi into answer squared plus 2000 upon the answer. So what do you get? You get 439.37, 439.37, which correct to three significant figures is 439 centimeter square. Okay, so there you go. That's the answer. Okay, sir, did you do the concept of differentiating LG? No, not yet. We're still doing the first part of differentiation. Okay, we haven't touched the second part of differentiation. We'll do that later. So you can, yeah, I will do a stream on ln and E graphs. Don't worry about it. Inshallah, before CI exams, I promise to try my level best to cover all the important topics. Okay. Just pray that I find the time and the energy to do it. So I can't find your function videos for AdMaths, the one you made for maths D. But I don't know what you're talking about. There is a video for IGCSE and O-level math of functions. There is no video for AdMath. I mean, I've done multiple streams. I don't have a video on it from scratch. So if you want to cover math functions, it doesn't matter whether it's IGCSE or O-level. For that, I have a stream. For AdMath functions, I don't have a stream. Okay, I have streams where I've solved past paper questions, but I don't have a stream where I've taught the topic from scratch. But don't worry, I will do a stream very soon. I've already covered permutations and combinations in detail from scratch. Sir, do you mind me being the moderator for this channel? I don't need one right now, but if I do, I'll let you know. Which PDF is this? Can please mention it. You won't find this PDF, but you'll find worksheets in the link in description. Okay, and you can also download all my notes, by the way, from the website www.mathleadbysop.com. Okay, so I think for AdMaths, you will find all the notes very soon. Only 2 or 3 chapters are left, but you can download the notes of the rest of the chapters. Anyway, so here's a question. I really like this question because it's a tricky one. So let's solve this question and let's do it together. A piece of wire 2 meter is divided into 2 pieces. One piece is bent to form a square of side x meters and the other is bent to form a circle of radius r meter. Okay. Express r in terms of x and show that the total area of the 2 shapes is given by so and so. Okay. So basically, here's the thing. The piece of wire has length 2 meters. Okay, so the piece of wire that the first part is talking about is 2 meters long. Now, one piece is bent to form a square of side x meters. So that means if you take out one piece, okay, and from that piece you form a square, so here it is. Here is the square that has been formed from this wire. Now, what are the dimensions of the square? The dimensions are x by x. So that means the perimeter will be equal to 4x. Now, if 4x wire out of 2 is used, so what's left? What's left will be 2 minus 4x. Okay, what will be left will be 2 minus 4x. Okay, and this we are using to do what? This we are using to form a circle. Okay, so this we are using to form a circle. And what's the radius of the circle? The radius of the circle is r. Here we go. Okay. Now, remember, this 2 minus 4x is basically the perimeter of the circle. So perimeter, which is equal to the circumference, which is equal to 2 pi r. Okay, and what's that equal to? That's basically equal to the length of the wire that we've used to make a circle. So that means 2 pi r is equal to 2 minus 4x. Okay, I repeat, 2 pi r, which is the formula for calculating the circumference, is equal to the length of the wire, which is 2 minus 4x. Now, what we are supposed to do is, remember, keep your eyes on the prize, we're supposed to express r in terms of x. Okay, so how can I use this equation to express r in terms of x? 2 minus 4x upon 2 pi. Let's divide everything by 2, so it's going to be 1 minus 2x upon 2 pi. 1 minus 2x upon pi, actually, not 2 pi, upon pi. Okay. Now, what are we supposed to do next? We're supposed to show that the total area, okay, so total area means area of the square plus area of the circle. So total area means total area is equals to area of square plus area of circle. Now, what's the area of square going to be equal to? That's going to be equal to x square. What about the area of circle? area of circle will be equal to pi r square, and notice we have the value of r, so we're going to plug that in. So x square plus pi into 1 minus 2x upon pi, the whole thing square. Now, one thing to observe is that we still haven't used any form of differentiation yet. Okay, we still haven't used any form of differentiation yet. ठीक है, और हमें यूज़ करने की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी भी नहीं ये वाला पार्ट सॉल्व करने के लिए. We will use differentiation in part 2 and part 3. But my detailed video discussing the tracing paper issue is going to come out very soon, where I've answered all the questions. Okay, so don't worry about it. X square plus, now I'm just going to expand this using the identity 1 minus 4x plus 4x square upon pi square. Okay, so we've used the identity. Now pi and the square from pi square will cancel, and now we have x square plus 1 minus 4x plus 4x square upon pi. Now keep your eyes on the prize. This is not how the question wants to give the answer. Okay, the question wants us to give the answer in some other way. So we're going to do what the question wants. We're going to take the LCM, which is going to be pi. So this will be pi x square plus 1 minus 4x plus 4x square. This is still not the way the question wants. The question wants us to take x square common. So first let's get all the x squares on one side. So we have pi x square plus 4x square plus 1 minus 4x upon pi. And now let's take x square common. So if I do that, we have pi plus 4 x square plus 1 minus 4x. But first let's write minus 4x plus 1 upon pi. Is this suitable for ASP1? Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. I think लोगों का Eid mode on हुआ होगा. Probably that's why. Sir, do you teach statistics too? No, I don't teach S2. I don't teach S2, although I think it's a pretty cool subject, but I don't teach it, sadly. Anyway, now. Given that x can vary, find the stationary value of A and the nature of the stationary value. So this is the part where we start using differentiation. Okay, so notice that so far we still haven't used differentiation. Okay, now we're going to start using differentiation. Any tips for trigonometric identities? It takes much work. See, trigonometric identities, honestly, if you do lots and lots of trigonometric identities, you can't be surprised anymore. Okay, but you'll have to do like a whole bunch of trigonometric identities for that. ठीक है, एक point के बाद आके आपको लगेगा कि you'll just be failed to surprise. You'll reach a point where every question will just fail to surprise you. Okay, but that requires a lot of work. A lot of work. Okay, now anyway, before I differentiate this, now remember 1 upon pi is a constant. Okay, 1 upon pi is a constant. Okay, so I'm just going to take that out, and we can just ignore 1 upon pi. Okay, it's like, for example, if you're differentiating x square upon 2, so you're just going to focus on the numerator, that's going to be 2x, and then the denominator remains as it is, and then it cancels. Okay, so just like that, we're going to ignore the upon pi, and I've taken it outside, so we can just ignore it for the time being. Now let's differentiate it. Okay, so let's differentiate dA upon dx. So 1 upon pi remains where it was. It's a constant, so we're just going to ignore it. And let's see what's going on inside the bracket. So inside the bracket, there will be 2 times pi plus 4 multiplied by x minus 4 plus 0. Why plus 0? Because the differential of 1 is 0. And what are we supposed to equate this with? We're supposed to equate this with 0. So let's expand. So we have 2 pi x plus 4x minus 4 equals to 0. Okay, so we cross multiply. Pi disappears. We have 2 pi x plus 4x minus 4. Actually, plus 8x, not 4x, plus 8x. And now let's take x common. So that's going to be 2 pi plus 8 equals to 4. Let's make x the subject. X is equals to 4 upon 2 pi plus 8. Now the question did not say anything where it's asking us to write down the exact value or the decimal value or anything of that sort. So we can leave it as it is. If you want to simplify it, you can do that also. Okay, but this is not the end of the question. The question was asking us to find out the stationary value of A. Okay, what we have found is the value of x when A is stationary. The value of x when A is stationary. ठीक है, अब कहानी ख़त्म कब होगी? कहानी ख़त्म जब होगी जब हम A की stationary value निकाल लेंगे. Now what's A equal to? This is what A is equal to. Now we're going to take this value of x and we're going to plug it in this equation. So we're going to take this value of x and we're going to plug it in here. And once again, use your calculator, be smart about it. Okay, so if you plug it in, I'm just going to save some time and I'm going to write down the answer. You will get 0.140 m square. Okay, so when you plug in the value of x, you will get 0.140 m square. Sir, how will we know to use the dx upon dy? If you're talking about chain rule, then watch the last stream. In the last stream, when we were doing rates of change, I've taught how to make the relevant chain rule. Okay, now part 3. Let's see what part 3 says. Part 3 says the nature of the stationary value. Okay, so we already have dA by dx. Okay, let's copy paste it. Here is dA by dx. Now let's differentiate it once again. कल मैंने stream नहीं की. I was waiting. तो बेटा there was no stream planned yesterday. The stream was going to be today. Anyway, so let's differentiate it again. D square A upon dx square. So here's what happens. We have 1 upon pi. This becomes 2 pi plus 8. Now notice this is not in terms of x. This is going to be positive. Why? Because 2 pi is positive, 8 is positive, pi is positive. So it's going to be a positive number divided by a positive number. That means the answer will be greater than 0 and therefore it's a minimum value. Okay, therefore it's a minimum value. Now, any questions? If yes, feel free to ask. If not, then I would like you guys to solve a question. Okay, here's a question which I would like you guys to solve. Just a minute. I know you guys can't see my screen. Here. So any difference between AdMath and IGCSE? What do you mean any difference between AdMath and IGCSE? I think you're probably trying to ask any difference between O-level AdMath and IGCSE. No, there isn't. As far as AdMath is concerned, there's no difference between AdMaths and O-level AdMaths and IGCSE. AdMaths. Okay, so AdMaths is the same. The paper is the same. Everything's exactly the same. So should I give AdMaths paper in October, November? I'll be in AS by then. See, if you're able, if you're not really unlocking something by giving admaths, then there is no point. Okay, so if let's say you're gaining a huge advantage by giving the admath paper, only then should you put yourself through the pain of giving the admaths paper, otherwise you shouldn't. Which stream will be next math stream? I think the next math stream will most likely be of sketching curves. Yeah. Sketching curves, asymptotes, although I don't think we'll be able to cover all of that in one stream. But that's definitely what I'm streaming next, inshallah. Integration, so it's going to take a while. So should I get my hopes up because I found the... no, don't get your hopes up. What if they give May June students South Korean examination level? No, don't get your hopes up because I told you that the May June paper I found it to be suspiciously easy. So the February March paper, God only knows what they're going to do with May June. Sir, it would be definitely right to do past papers from 2015 if you can find, then nothing. If you can find the time to do it, then nothing like it, of course. Yeah, I will do. So functions, domain and range is on my list. Okay, it's not that lengthy, that's why I haven't done it yet. Differentiation integration requires multiple streams. Functions doesn't. At least AddMath functions doesn't require multiple streams. So I'll do it, don't worry. आप लोग बस जो अपना काम है करने का वो करते रहें, लीव द रेस्ट टू मी इंशाल्लाह. सो एक चीज़ समझ नहीं आ रही कि हम IGCSE मैथ पेपर 4 या O लेवल मैथ पेपर 2 में जो लंबे सवाल आते हैं तो वो अब नहीं आएंगे, फिर किस तरह के सवाल आएंगे, मतलब उनका मेन प्रैक्टिस मटेरियल क्या. बेटा the previous past papers are still relevant, okay, because focus on the concept. If the structure of the question is different, that doesn't mean that it's irrelevant. It's still relevant because the concepts that are being tested are not changed. Okay, so for the most part, the concepts that are being tested are not changed. It's just that now the structure of the questions are different. Okay, तो हो सकता है कि पहले जैसे होता था कि ट्रिग्नोमेट्री का एक सवाल आता था उसमें सब आ जाता था, उसमें आपका 2D भी आ जाता था, 3D भी आ जाता था. Now it may be the case that you have a separate question for 2D trigonometry and you have a separate question for 3D trigonometry. Okay. Anyway, so here's a question which I asked you guys to solve. I'm going to solve this now. Pay close attention. The diagram shows a shape made by cutting an equilateral triangle out of a rectangle of width x centimeter. The perimeter of the shape is 20 centimeter. Show that the area a centimeter square of the shape is given by so and so. Okay. So what are we dealing with? We are dealing with a shape which is made out of a rectangle of width x centimeter, and an equilateral triangle is cut out of the triangle. So that means if this is x, obviously because it's a rectangle, this also must be x, this also must be x. And we're supposed to show that the area is equal to so and so. Now do bear in mind that this is an equilateral triangle. Okay, now the question is, how should I find out the area? Okay, how should I find out the area of the shape? Now, in the grand scheme of things, the area of the shaded region or area of the shape that we're left with will be equal to area of rectangle minus the area of triangle. Now, as far as area of triangle is concerned, we all can work that out immediately, no big deal. It's going to be half into x into sine 60. Okay, but as far as the area of rectangle is concerned, we can't work that out because we might have the length, but we don't know what the width is. Or we actually have the width, but we don't know what the length is. Okay, अब length कहाँ से लाएं? Let's see. Notice we're given the perimeter. So it's no coincidence that we're given the perimeter. The perimeter of the shape is 20. So what's the perimeter equal to? Perimeter of the shape would be equal to x plus the length. Okay, so count with me. X plus the length plus x again and plus the length. Okay, so x plus length plus x plus the length, which is equal to what? Which will be the perimeter, and this will be equal to 3x plus 2l, which is equal to 20. And now we can make length the subject. So length is equals to 20 minus 3x upon 2. Let's confirm if that's correct. 20 minus 3x upon 2. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. So we can find out the area of rectangle. That's going to be 20 minus 3x upon 2. Okay. Multiplied by x, so that's length times width, minus the area of triangle, which is equal to half into x square into sine 60. Sine 60, in case you don't know, sine 60 is equals to root 3 upon 2. Root 3 upon 2. Okay, now let's see where do we stand. So we have 20x minus 3x square upon 2. Let's write this nicely. 20x minus 3x square upon 2 minus root 3 x square upon 4. Okay. Now let's take the LCM. Keep your eyes on the price. Okay, so this is something we should be able to achieve. So by the way, this will be 20x, not 20x square. Okay, now when we take the LCM, here's what happens. The LCM is going to be 4. So let me make sure that I've done everything correctly. Why does it seem as if I've done something wrong? Perimeter, the diagram shows a shape made by cutting an equilateral triangle. So x plus L plus x plus x plus L. Okay, seems all right so far. Let's see if we're able to reach the answer or not. So we multiply this by 2. So that's going to be 40x minus 6x square minus root 3 x square as it is. Yeah, I think so far so good. Okay. Now remember, keep your eyes on the price. We're supposed to separate the 4, and here we're supposed to take minus common. Okay, so let's separate the 4. So 40x, and first let's take minus common. So that's going to be 6x square plus root 3 x square. And along with that, let's also take x square common. Let's take minus. Along with that, let's take x square common. So 6 plus root 3 multiplied by x square upon 4. Now let's separate the 4. So we have 40x upon 4 minus 6 plus root 3 with x square upon 4. And what's 40 upon 4 equal to? 40 upon 4 is equals to 10. So finally, the area is equals to 10x minus 6 plus root 3 upon 4 multiplied by x square. There you go. That's the answer. How many marks? 3 marks. I think it should have been more marks, but anyway, here it is. 3 marks. Now, there will be a follow-up part where you're supposed to find out the stationary value, and that's very predictable. Given that x can vary, find the value of x which produces the maximum area and calculate this maximum area. Okay, no big deal. So we're supposed to find out dA by dx. So dA by dx will be equal to 10 minus 2 times 6 plus root 3 upon 4 into x. Okay. So how did you understand that we would have to use perimeter to find L? What else can we do? Good question. How did I understand that I have to use perimeter to find L? वैसे तो देखो, when you solve enough questions, you will realize that there's always a piece of information in the question that you have to use. Okay? But what else could I have done to find out the length? Is there any other way that I could have found out the length? Could I have used this triangle to find out the length? Nope, there's no way. Okay. Was the Feb-March paper for normal math hard? No, not really. I don't think it was that difficult. But it was not unusually easy. Okay, and it was also not unusually hard. Okay, so I think it was mid-range. So no surprises. But AdMath paper was definitely a surprise. Okay, so this is what we achieve. Now let's simplify before we cross multiply. 2 1s are 2, 2 5s are 10. Let's cross multiply. So 5 4s are 20. So 20 is equals to 6 plus root 3 times x. Let's make x the subject. So we have 20 over 6 plus root 3. That's the value of x. Okay. And then this is not the end of the question. Remember, the question ends when you find out the maximum area. So use this value of x and plug it into the answer to find out the area. So I'm going to use a calculator over here. So use this value of x, plug it in here. So when will I solve the February? After Eid, inshallah. After Eid, I'll do a live stream solving the February-March paper. Okay? You guys are welcome to tune into that. And there's also a past paper session starting from the first week of April, right after Eid. So you guys are welcome to join that also. Registrations are open. You can register directly from the website as well. So this is the value of x, which we're now going to plug in the equation of area. So 10 times the answer minus, bracket open, make a fraction, 6 plus root 3 upon 4, close the bracket, answer squared. Okay, let's write the multiplication sign just in case. So there you go. What do we get? We get A to be equal to 12.93. So let's lock it at 12. And let's see what the question says. The question says give your answer correct to 2 significant figures. So correct to 2 significant figures, it would be 13 centimeters square. Now the unit is not that relevant. Just make sure that you get the correct answer. And just make sure that you round it off correctly also. So how to study when you are sick? If you're sick, then you can, if let's say, depends on how sick you are. If you're really sick to solve a paper or something, then you can just watch videos, just make sure that you're learning something and you're not totally wasting time. What do O-level students need to know? What do you mean, what do O-level students need to know? Not sure what you mean by that. सर आपके पास अगर IGCSE मैथ्स का फरवरी मार्च पेपर है तो प्लीज़ उसका PDF दे सकते हैं. बेटा मैंने इंस्टाग्राम पे डाला था एक लिंक जिसे मैंने फरवरी मार्च के पेपर्स दिए थे. मैं दोबारा डाल देता हूँ. I also shared it someplace else. I don't know where it was. किधर शेयर किया था मैंने? But I'll share it on my Instagram again. Okay. No, there are no units in AdMaths. There are no marks for units. Okay. We have bigger fish to fry. As I always say, we have bigger fish to fry, so there are no marks for units. Sir, can AdMaths be done in 4 months, assuming I study 8 hours? If you're starting from scratch, then I don't think it's possible. Sir, I think Cambridge was in Eid mode while making the Feb. Yeah, I think so too. Because it was just retardedly easy. Anyway, so I think आज हम यहीं तक रखते हैं. ठीक है, आप लोगों को भी I think Eid mode on हुआ है. And yeah, I will do a live stream for hardest past paper AdMath questions. Okay, so there will be plenty of streams coming inshallah very soon. So don't worry about it. So where are we supposed to register for the streams? Okay, so from the first week of April, those aren't streams that you're supposed to register for. Those are live classes that are separate from these live streams, which you can join. And you can register yourself directly from the website. There will be streams, but the streams will not be of yearly past papers. Maybe I will just solve 1 or 2 yearly past papers on a stream, but streams will be like these, where we cover a topic and we solve topical past papers. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So right now, should I only do variant 2 or do all variants of IGC? If you have the time, then definitely do all variants. If you don't have the time, then don't. Simple as that. So variant is just supplementary practice material. So O level में differentiation नहीं, O level math में differentiation नहीं है, IGCSE math में, but there is no differentiation in O level math. So for second differentiation, we just use the values of x after we differentiate it. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Once you have the second derivative, you use the value of x where the variable is stationary and plug it in. Alright, so I'm going to stop here. Jate jate, if you guys haven't liked the stream, please do that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. So I will stop here. I'll see you guys inshallah in the next stream, most likely after Eid. Okay, so I'll be announcing on my Instagram whatever I'm streaming and whenever I'm streaming. So yeah, take care. Remember me in your prayers. These are big nights that we have entered into. So please remember me and my family in your prayers. So take care everyone. Allah Hafiz.